Revelation chapter 9. Revelation chapter 9. By the way, did you all know the atheists, they have a holiday. You know, they only have one. And it's today. Yep, April Fool's Day. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Amen. So Revelation 9, we are looking at the trumpet judgments. And tonight in particular, we're going to look at judgment from demonic powers. We finished through the first four judgments, or the trumpet judgments last week. And so now we're ready to look at the final three. And if you look at chapter 8, verse 13, they're given a name, a title. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. And so the final three trumpet judgments are called what? Woe judgments. Okay. In fact, in chapter 8, verse 13, if you want to jot this down, chapter 8, verse 13 is the preface to the final three. So you could kind of look at chapter 8, verse 13 as the headline, and then chapter 9 and into chapter 10, the first part of chapter 10 would be the article, if you would. So these judgments are woe judgments. Chapter 8, verse 13 is the preface to the final three judgments. And then what happens is the execution of the final three are beginning in chapter 9, verse 1. And he says, and the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven to the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So when the final three pick up, we're going to see, after two of them, we're going to see the pause button hit again. Do you remember we had that before? With the seal judgments, we had 6 of those judgments, and then the pause button is hit. And there's chapter 7 that tells us about all the people that will be saved during the tribulation period. And then the judgment picks back up with the final seal judgment, and then which is actually where the trumpets come out of. You remember that? Okay, so we're going to have another pause button hit just before the final trumpet judgment. And that pause period is going to be from chapter 10, verse 1, down to chapter 11, verse 14. So 10:1, 10:1. So read that with me. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was upon his head, and his face was as it were the sun. And just turn over to chapter 11, verse 14. So after the 6th trumpet judgment, we're going to have another parenthetical period. The pause button is hit. Pause in action. By the way, when we have pause in action, is there still lingering effects of the judgments that have already passed? Well, of course there are, yes. Yeah, I mean, you look at the devastation that's being done. Of course there's effects. But as far as the narrative goes, there's this pause that's hit, and we come into this parenthetical period that ends in chapter 11, verse 14. He says, the second woe is past, and behold, the third woe comes quickly. And then in verse 15, and the 7th angel sounded, and there was great voices from heaven, and so forth. So between chapter 10, verse 11, and chapter 11, verse 14, this is kind of a parenthetical. So we go from the 6th trumpet judgment, we have put things on hold, and we have chapter 10 and the first part of chapter 11. Now, what do we know about woe in the Bible? Besides how to stop a horse, okay. So woe in the Bible, consistently woe in the Bible, and it's never used not this way. So consistently in the Bible, woe is used to speak of divinely sent calamity. So woe is always going to be divinely sent calamity, always terrible in nature. I want to show you one example. Just hold your place here and look at Matthew 11. Matthew 11. Matthew 11 is when Jesus basically says to the Jewish people, I'm going to move on from y'all, and we'll pick back up with you in the end times. But in chapter 11, verse 20, then began he to upbraid the cities. That means he's withdrawing from the people. He's getting away from them, wherein most of his mighty works were done because they repented not. He gave them sign after sign after sign. They knew what they were supposed to be looking for. He operated in their midst. This is, you know the song, Heaven Came Down and Glory. This is heaven coming down to earth. And he says in verse 21, you have denied me, you did not repent. So he says in verse 21, woe unto thee, Chorazin, and woe unto thee, Bethsaida. Why? Well, then he uses this story. He says this, if what you all have seen, the things that have happened in front of you before your eyes, if the mighty works were done in you, had been done in Tyre and Sidon, that's Sodom and Gomorrah, they would have repented long ago in sackcloth and ashes. Interesting, huh? And so the announcement of woe, well, guess where the woe is? Guess who's getting hit hard here? It's the ones that denied him, the ones that turned him down. He came into his own, and his own said no, and his own received him not. So the woe is being poured out here in the book of Revelation. So consistently in the Bible, woe is always terrible in nature, and it always speaks of divinely sent calamity. Notice also, go back to chapter 8, verse 13. Chapter 8, verse 13 is also sort of a break. And what I mean by that is in chapter 8, verse 12, you've got the fourth trumpet, and the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, third part of the moon, third part of the stars, so as the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. Verse 13, here's a little bit of a break. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, you see, here's the announcement of what's coming. We're going to have the final three judgments, but verse 13 of chapter 8 also serves or also functions as sort of a break. It's a break in that it's a warning, isn't it? It's a break in that it's a warning to everybody that's on the earth. Why is it a warning? Well, you guys think this has been hard? We've had all the seal judgments. We've had 4 trumpet judgments. And the warning is this. There is remaining judgment. Look at verse 13, the last 3 words. Yet to sound. See that word yet? So it's a warning. There's still more to come. You need to get right with the Lord. That's the point. So those breaks are given, as we've said a couple times, looking through Revelation like this, to give a chance for repentance. It's the God of grace that's extending just a little bit more grace. I'm going to give you a little bit more time. We're going to hit the pause button. We're going to have chapter 9 and the first part of chapter 10. We're going to have that come. And I'm warning you that there's more yet to come. All of that is grace. Does God have to tell them that? No, not at all. So it's all a warning. It's an extension of a little bit more grace and a little bit more time. By the way, what is time besides short? Time is grace, isn't it? Time is grace. All right? But we also know that even though grace is extended, because we have the benefit of the word telling us these things, even though grace is extended, unfortunately, for the most part, what happens? What does man do with it? Man rejects it. Yep, for the most part, man rejects it. It's rejected, just like today.
Just a few.
Just like in our day. We have it so good. We have things so good in our country. We have things so good. I mean, what do we have to complain about? I mean, I guess I got plenty to complain about, but every time I complain, nobody listens. But she always says, go back to work and shut up. So, anyway. But we do. We have it so good. I mean, think about it. Have you considered the grace of God? And I'll put that in your lap right now. You know, I hope you have. I hope you've considered the grace of God and the work of Christ for you on your behalf. If you haven't, I can just plead with you, just like God does, to take a minute and think about it and consider it. Okay? And I'm sure you recall the first 4 trumpet judgments that we've already had in chapter 8. The first 4 judgments, these are all natural things. You remember that? They're all natural things. So we've got grass. Where do we have that? Verse 7 in chapter 8. We had grass, vegetation. We had the waters, the judgment on the waters. Verse 8, verse 9. And then in verse 10, we had judgment on the third part of the sun. And the moon was darkened. And so with the first 4, these are all natural things. With the final 3 trumpet judgment, those are all supernatural things. Those are all the unseen world. All right? Now, what's going to happen is that there's a pit that we're going to learn about. And the pit that we're going to learn about is going to be opened. So evidently it's closed today. But if you look at chapter 9, verse 1, and the 5th angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, and as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So the inhabitants of the pit are going to be loosed on earth. He says in verse 3, there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. And it was commanded to them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have rejected God, which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. That's who they are going after. So the pit is open, the inhabitants of the pit are loosed, and the inhabitants of the pit are turned loose on the earth. Now, I think we all know that when it comes to Satan and demonic forces today, those satanic and demonic forces are active today. They are active today, okay? But we also need to understand that they are also restrained. They are active, but they are also restrained. Sure, Satan goes about like a roaring lion, seeking whom he may devour. But at the same time, he's a roaring lion, but he's a lion on a leash. So Satan, the satanic forces, the demonic forces, those things are restrained. Activity is limited today. May not seem like it, but it is. It's limited today. That restraint is going to be removed at some point. And it's removed with the 5th trumpet judgment. The restraint of Satan and the restraint of demonic forces are loosed to do what they want to do. Now, there is still some limitation. Did you pick up on some of that? Verse 4, for example. The only thing that you can get after is the ones that have not said yes to God yet. All right? There's limitation to that. That's going to quickly go away. But the forces of evil are loosed on the earth. All right? Look at 2 Peter, if you would. 2 Peter 2. We're not leaving Revelation, but 2 Peter 2. Second Peter. So in 2 Peter 2, the condition that Peter's going to talk about here, that condition is going to be changed in Revelation. With the 5th trumpet judgment, that condition that Peter talks about in 2 Peter 2 is going to be changed. Take a look at verse 4. We touched on this last week, but let's talk about it. We need to deal with it. For if God spared not the angels that sinned, but cast them down to hell, that's Tartarus. The only time that word is used in the Bible, it's Tartarus. So it's not Hades, it's not Gehenna. This is Tartarus, and delivered them into chains of darkness. Why? He's holding them back. Yep. So he says to be reserved unto judgment. They're being held until this. And so obviously there's a place called Tartarus. Everybody okay with that? Okay, so there's obviously a place called Tartarus. And in that place, which I guess he calls the pit as well, in that place, Tartarus, there's a company of angels. That company of angels is confined right now. Right now, they're not loosed. Nobody's opened the door yet to that, okay? Skip over to Jude. 1 Peter, 2 Peter, 1 John, 2 John, 3 John, Jude. Or if you get to Revelation, turn back. Jude, verse 6. By the way, 2 Peter and Jude are pretty much parallel books. Kind of take them, if you're using one, you need to use the other, is what I'm saying. Jude 6. And the angels which kept not their first estate, we just had that back in 2 Peter 2, but left their own habitation, he's holding them back, isn't he? He has reserved in everlasting chains under darkness until the judgment of the great day. So they're confined until when? The great day. Now, if we go back to Revelation 9, Jude said they're confined for the great day. Well, here's the day. Revelation chapter 9, with the fifth trumpet judgment, there's the great day, right? How do we know that? I saw a star fall from heaven unto earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. So where these inhabitants of the pit are confined, in 2 Peter 2 and then in Jude 6, they're loosed. And they're loosed. How long were they confined for? Until the great day. See that? Okay. Here's the great day. So the great day that Peter talks about and the great day that Jude talks about starts here with the fifth trumpet judgment. Everybody okay? Okay. So the fifth trumpet, which is the first woe judgment, is verse 1 down to verse 12. Take a look at verse 12. One woe is past, and behold, there come two woes more yet to come, or hereafter. Now, what's the first thing we see happen with the fifth trumpet, or the first woe? We see a star fall from heaven. See it in verse 1? And when the star falls from heaven to earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit, and he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. So we've got a star, and then we've got a key. So we've got a star, and we've got a key to the pit. Then what we're going to have in verse 3 down to verse 11 is we're going to have a bunch of details about who's in the pit. So about the inhabitants of the pit. So we've got a star, we've got a key, or a pit, whatever you want to work, whatever you prefer. A star, a key, and the inhabitants. Those are the three things we need to see. Okay? Any questions so far? Okay, so in verse 1, with the star, we'll have, first of all, the person. Verse 1. Now, the King James says this, I saw a star fall from heaven. Kind of gives you the feel that John's standing there and he kind of sees this take place. That's not it. Okay, that's not a good translation of that. That's not the idea at all, because first of all, it's a perfect tense. Perfect tense means it's done. It's already passed. This is something that has already taken place. And most translations pick up on that, I think. Does somebody have something that picks up on that way? You pick up on the thing that it's already been done? Is that what you have? Okay. Yeah. So it's the idea that this has already been done. So the way to see that is this, if you're working with the King James, which had fallen to the earth. So the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star which had fallen to the earth. Perfect tense, completed action, past event, it's already done. So what he saw was the star that had already fallen. He didn't see a star falling. It's one that's already fallen. So the star is a person. How do we know that? Verse 1, what do we got? Somebody said him, right? Okay. Okay, so we've got a him in verse 1. How about verse 2? What's the second word? He. Okay, so we're talking about a person. So the star is a person. Key is given to him. And the fall from heaven is a past event. All right, so the star is a person. The fall is a past event. Where did the star fall from? Verse 1. From heaven. The preposition from is ek, which means out of. So the star fell out of heaven, and he did it in the past. So the details of that fall are given in Revelation 12. Let's go over and take a look at it. Revelation 12. And then we'll also look at a couple other places. Revelation 12, verse 7. The star, which is a person, him, fell out of heaven, did it in the past. Revelation 12, verse 7. And there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon. So just put a little question mark there. Who or what is the dragon? And the dragon fought and or with, alongside with his angels. And did they do good? No, they prevailed not. Neither was their place found any more in heaven. And the great dragon was cast out. Remember, question mark, who is it? That old serpent called the devil and Satan. By the way, devil's the Greek, Satan's the Hebrew. Both of them are deceivers. Both is, Hasatan is the one that's against, which is Satan. The Satan is the one that's against, and devil is Diabolos, which is deceiver. All right, so that's who the dragon is. So in chapter 9, verse 1, verse 1, who are we talking about? Who's the star? Satan. Hold your place here and look at Isaiah 14. Isaiah 14, verse 12. Isaiah 14:12. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation of the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. So there's one account of the fall of Satan. Look at Ezekiel 28. I believe that's it. Ezekiel 28. Yep, that's it. Ezekiel 28, verse 14. Thou art the anointed cherub that covers, and I have set thee so. Thou wast upon the holy mountain of God. Thou hast walked up and down in the midst of the stones of fire. Thou wast perfect in thy ways from the day that thou wast created until iniquity was found in thee. All right, so this is the one we're talking about that John says, I saw a star. It had already fallen in the past. It's a person. It's a him. And that's who we're talking about in Revelation chapter 9. By the way, always keep in mind, for the most part, 90-something%, okay? For the most part, satanic activity is what today? Deception. For the most part, most of the activity, satanic activity, is deception. And he's doing a fantastic job. I mean, he really is. But that is, for the most part, what satanic activity. And man, are we ever deceived today? I mean, think about it. By the way, star is any light emitting source. So it's anything that throws off light. That's the word star. It's personified here. It's also personified in Job, a couple different places where he talks about the stars. But star, the word means any light emitting source. Now, is Satan said to be light anywhere? Look at 2 Corinthians 11. 2 Corinthians 11. I didn't mean to do all this tonight, but this is important. This is important. 2 Corinthians 11. And what I'm saying is that satanic activity today, for the most part, is deception. Okay? And the star is anything that emits light. Okay? Personified in Revelation 9, I understand that, but the word itself means anything that puts forth light. 2 Corinthians 11, verse 13. For such are false apostles, deceitful workers, transforming themselves into the apostles of Christ, and no marvel. Who's behind this thing? For Satan himself is transformed into an angel of light. Therefore, it is no great thing if his ministers also be transformed as the ministers of righteousness, whose end shall be according to their works. You know where you'll find satanic activity and his ministers for the most part today? Pulpits. For the most part, you'll find them behind the pulpit. And they'll look good. Sound good for the most part. I mean, where do we come up where we needed smoke and flashing lights in church? Where did we come up with that? Whose idea was that? That wasn't a believer studying his Bible, was it? Help me now, come on. That definitely was not a believer studying his Bible. Where'd that come from? Whose idea was that? Well, that was a pastor somewhere along the line. How about the pit? Back to Revelation 9, verse 2. And he opened the bottomless pit. Pit, we can call that an abyss, A-B-Y-S-S. The indication as you trace the word out and what's going on with this pit is that there's kind of a funnel and then it expands out. So as it gets deeper, it expands out and grows. All right? And so this pit, I wouldn't think that you would find this big gaping hole that's, hundreds of miles wide. No, it's just a kind of a funnel kind of thing. So it's the indications that I get in studying it. And then it expands out as it goes deeper. That is the dwelling place for demons. Well, I'll tell you what, look at Luke 8, too. Who went there already? Luke 8. Did we already go to Luke 8? No, we didn't go there. Because this just popped in my mind. Here's a situation here where Jesus is interacting with some demons, and the pit comes up again. When it comes to supernatural, man's going to go one of two ways. Man is going to say that they don't exist because I can't see them. That's basically, if man basically says if I can't see it, touch it, smell it, and all, it doesn't exist, right? And so that's one of the ways that man will go with it. And obviously that's false. So the other thing is that since we're talking about supernatural beings, since supernatural beings are unseen, then they can't touch you. I think we'd all be shocked if we had some supernatural eyes on us right now where you could look around and kind of see what's going on around you. I think we'd be shocked. I really do. Nancy looked around her and said, amen. Verse 26, Luke 8. And they arrived at the country of the Gadarenes, which is over against Galilee. And when he went forth to land, there met out of him the city a certain man which had devils long time, and wear no clothes, neither abode in any house, but in the tombs. Does that appear to be real, by the way? Okay, it is. Verse 28. When he saw Jesus, he cried out and fell down before him, and with a loud voice said, what have I to do with thee, Jesus? Is this the man talking? Okay. What have I to do with thee, Jesus, thou Son of God Most High? I beseech thee, torment me not. So these unseen beings evidently are intelligent to some extent, right? They know something. They obviously know who he is, verse 29. For he had commanded the unclean spirit to come out of the man, for oftentimes it had caught him, and he was kept bound with chains and in fetters, and he'd break the bands and was driven of the devil into the wilderness. I mean, if you can picture that, here you got a guy in handcuffs, and he just breaks right out of them, right? Verse 30, Jesus asked him, saying, what is your name? And he said, Legion, because many devils were entered into him. Could that happen today? Okay. And they besought him that he would not command them to go out into the deep, and the deep is the bottomless pit. All right? So the pit, the abyss, verse 32, and there was there a herd of many swine feeding in the mountain, and they besought him that he would suffer them to enter into the swine, the pigs. And he said, okay, he allowed it. Verse 33, then went the devils out of the man and entered into the swine, and the herd ran violently down a steep place into the lake where they were choked. Real stuff, isn't it? Verse 34, when they that fed them saw what was done, they fled. I mean, you would too. And went and told it to the city and in the country. Boy, imagine they had social media in Jesus' day. Then they went out to see what was done and came to Jesus and found the man out of whom the devils were departed. Where was he now? He wasn't being deceived anymore. By the way, how do you get undeceived? Well, I'd probably follow what this guy's doing right here. I'd probably go sit at Jesus' feet. I'd probably put all my attention on the Lord. That's how you keep not being deceived. If you got one eye on the Lord and the other on everything else, Jesus said you can't serve material things in God. You got to pick one. You can't do both. Can't straddle the fence, because material things will eat you up. They will eat you up. Mammon will eat you up. All right? So he's sitting at the feet of Jesus, clothed and in his right mind, and they were afraid. That's all real stuff. Now back to Revelation 9, verse 2. We've got the abyss. The pit is open. By the way, where's Satan going after the tribulation? Go to Revelation 20. Revelation 20. No, he's going to come out this time. What he's going here. This is where he's going. Then he's going to come back out, and then he's going to be. Then that's it. Okay. Your Revelation 20, verse 1. We'll get to Revelation 9 at some point. Revelation 20, verse 1. I saw an angel come down from heaven, having the key of the bottomless pit and a great chain in his hand. And he laid hold on the dragon. Who's the dragon? The old serpent, which is the devil and Satan, and bound him 1,000 years, and cast him into bottomless pit. Same thing you got in Revelation 9. And shut him up and set a seal upon it, that he should deceive the nations no more until the 1,000 years should be fulfilled. And after that, he must be loosed for a season. By the way, how did he do when he's loosed? Look at verse 7. And when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison, and shall go out to deceive the nations, which are in the four quarters of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together to battle, the number of whom is as the sand of the sea. That's how many people Satan is able to get together in the millennial kingdom under the righteous rule of Christ. At the conclusion of the millennial kingdom, he's able to get enough guys together where you can't even count the number of them. And they went up under the breadth of the earth, encompassed the camps of the saints about, and the beloved city, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. Anything wrong with man? Man got a problem, you think? Man can actually go to Jerusalem, to the temple, and put his eyes on the Lord Jesus Christ. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. All right, the inhabitants. So Satan's fallen from heaven. He opens the pit. Verse 3 down to verse 11, the inhabitants. The first thing is you've got their arrival. Verse 3, there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and none of them was given power as the scorpions of the earth have power. It was commanded them that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which have not the seal of God in their foreheads. All right, so that's their arrival. They are intelligent because they're given instruction and they do what they're told to do. Notice they're under the kingship of Satan. Verse 11, they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue his name is Apollyon, and that is that's all deception and all that, destroyer. Notice the power the locusts have, verse 4, and it was commanded that they don't destroy all the vegetation. You can only touch the men that have not trusted God yet, verse 5. And to them was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. So the ones that have not believed, God, by the way, is this grace? Yeah, it's grace. Because they still got time. The only time you can trust Christ is when you're sucking air in this world. Right. Once you're gone, it's over. Time's up. So yes, this is still grace. Painful grace. Really, really bad. Not a fun day. And so to them was given that they should not kill them, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was the torment of a scorpion when he strikes a man. I've been hit by a scorpion. It is not fun. And so that's the power to harm unbelievers and demonic judgment. But is it still limited? Yes, it is. It's still limited power. What's the effect of it? Verse 6, and in those days shall man seek death, and they shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee from them. So it's desired and it's difficult. They want to die, but they can't. Men prefer death, but they can't die. That's a pretty tough predicament, is it not? Yeah. Excruciating pain, yet you can't escape. But it's still, by the way, these are people that have ignored God. And God is still trying to get their attention. This is the last-ditch effort to try to get their attention. Now we get a description of them, verse 7. So their demons fully prepared and eager, verse 7. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle, and on their heads were as it were crowns like gold, and their faces were as the face of men. So they're prepared and eager. They have king-like power that's been given to them. They have faces like men. It kind of does speak of human dignity to some extent and intelligence. That's verse 7. Notice this, verse 8. I found this interesting. They're kind of feminine-like. They had hair as the hair of women. So they're kind of feminine. Verse 8. Lion's teeth. By the way, just a little something about a lion's bite. There is so much bacteria in the mouth of a lion that the wound does not heal. So if you get bit by a lion, you're not going to heal. All right? Yep. Yes. Well, I mean, it's like these things, but the effects are literal. Yes. Yep. Yeah. I mean, if you had verse 8, for example. Well, verse 7, like horses. Yep. As crowns and their faces were as the faces of men. So it's a picture, figurative. The effects of it are literal. Yep. Okay. By the way, verse 9. Do they get tired? They had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings was as the sound of chariots of many horses running into battle. Heartless and tons of energy. They're not going to run out of gas. All right? Verse 10, the ability to inflict intense pain. They had tails like scorpions, and there were stings in their tails, and the power was to hurt men 5 months. And then again, their king is in verse 11. So this is the period where the forces of darkness are unleashed on the world. Unleashed on the world. Verse 13 and 14, the sixth angel sounded. Here's your sixth trumpet. So the sixth angel, mentally grab angel. So you've got the sixth angel. Verse 14, saying to the sixth angel which had a trumpet, loose the four angels. All right? You got that wrapped around your mind? Verse 15, angels. Verse 16, army. See that there? Angel and army. The army, the literal forces, army, the military forces beginning in verse 16, the point of verse 13, 14, and 15 is to tell us that all of those are going to be satanically inspired forces. So that's real military forces, but they are all going to be satanically inspired. And we'll see in just a minute, if we have time, that this is going to lead us into the alignment of the eastern powers. All right, so the sixth trumpet, the condition of the angels, verse 13 and 14, saying to the sixth angel which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound. So the condition is that they are bound. Remember what angel means. Messenger. Angel always means messenger. It doesn't ever not mean messenger. Okay, so angel always means messenger. In the Bible, angels or messengers subdivide into two categories. You've either got God's angels or you have Satan's angels. So angels always subdivide down into two categories. Satan's angels subdivide down into another two categories. Okay? I'm not going to take time to turn to it, but you can look later. Luke 15:10 is just one example of God's angels, specifically said to be that. So Luke 15:10 is one place. But what I do want to do is I want to go over to Matthew 25. Matthew 25, 41. Matthew 25, 41. So we're subdividing angels into two categories. One is God's angels, the other is Satan's. Matthew 25, 41. Then shall he say also unto them on the left hand, depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire. What was everlasting fire prepared for? Who was that prepared for? The devil and his angels. So if any people ever go to hell, they're intruders. Wasn't prepared for you. Wasn't made for you. So if anybody goes to hell, they're an intruder in that place. So we've got Satan's angels are subdivided into another two categories. You've got the bound angels. We just saw that in 2 Peter 2 and Jude 6. Write that down and look later if you want. 2 Peter 2:4 and Jude 6. So you've got Satan's angels. There's a category of bound ones. They're bound right now. Revelation 9:2 says that they get loosed. But they're bound right now. And then we also have loose angels that are Satan's angels. How do we know that? Well, you probably interacted with one or two in time to time, right? Ephesians 6 says, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against powers, principalities, and powers, and the rulers of darkness of this world. So we know that there are loosed ones today. We know that, all right? And we also know Job 1, for example. Satan came and God said, have you considered my servant Job? He said, yeah, of course I have. You know I have. And he let him go to work on Job, all right? Satan's activity is given to us in the New Testament in three different ways. We have Satan's activity in the church age. So that's Ephesians 6, for example. We wrestle not against flesh and blood. You have the armor, the passage on the armor of God there. So church age, I want to show you something here in 1 Timothy chapter 4. Satanic activity, 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. So there's satanic activity specifically in the church age. In verse 1, 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Now the Spirit speaks expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith. So when you depart, what are you doing? You're giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. I hope you understand that there is demonic teaching in the church. Teaching of devils, doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. So you have satanic activity in the church age, but you also have satanic activity specifically mentioned. It's going to ramp up just a little bit in the latter days. As we get closer to the tribulation, those things are going to begin to ramp up. Amen. And then we have Satan's activity in the tribulation, which we're looking at in Revelation chapter 9. So let's go back to that. So let's say something about their connection. Remember, they're tied to the armies in verse 16. So these are demons, demonic activity. Verse 16, and the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. So put it like this. Verse 13 through 15 is the invisible army. And then verse 16 down to the end of the chapter, 16 to 19, is the natural part of it. So supernatural and natural. Or you have the invisible operation, and then you have the visible force, which are literal military operations that are going to be taking place. Notice their location in verse 14. What does it say? The Euphrates River, right? So it's any army that you're going to have in verse 16 and following. The army, if they want to get to Palestine, what's going to be their problem? The Euphrates. Any army trying to get to Palestine coming from the east, the problem is going to be mainly from the east. Some of the northern countries will have the same problem because where the Tigris and the Euphrates meet, north, and they kind of loops around. But mainly the armies from the east are going to have to deal with getting across the Euphrates. All right, verse 15. And the four angels which were loosed, which were prepared for an hour, and a day, and a month, and a year, for to slay the third part of men. Now, this right here is the largest judgment, the biggest judgment. This is the big event in Revelation right here. This is the big one. This is the big event in Revelation. Verse 16, how many is 200,000? 200 million. So what we have at this point is associated with the Euphrates River. We just had that somewhere, right? Verse 14. Associated with the Euphrates River, you've got an enormous army. So look over at chapter 16. All of this goes together, okay? Chapter 16. Here's the bowl judgments. Verse 12. So you've got this enormous army coming up against the Euphrates River. Revelation 16, verse 12. And the sixth angel poured out, here's your bowl wrath, poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up, and the way of the kings of the east have now been prepared. They can get across. And so what you have is you have an alignment of eastern powers that are going to cross the Euphrates River. I don't know why. This is all we hear about it. It's all we know about it. We don't know why they're coming. We know more. There's more details given about the countries in the north. We don't know why these are coming, but it's going to take the oriental countries to get together a 200 million man army. You know, it's interesting to read commentaries from back 100 years ago or so. You remember those, Jerry, don't you? Yeah. All these commentators said that with this army that this had to be figurative because there wasn't anything that would come even close. But what do we know now, right? Yeah. All right. So we've got in chapter 16 that the Euphrates is going to get dried up. Chapter 9, verse 15, the preparation. So they were prepared for an hour. Make a little note if you want to next to that. The word hour is the hour. Our translation doesn't pick up on that. Maybe yours does, but mine doesn't. Did anybody pick up on that in theirs? Verse 15, the hour. Okay. So make a little note of that. It's the hour. It will take place at a specific hour and a certain day, month, and year. So all of the action is going to be by man. Man is going to do all this, satanically influenced. Who's in charge of the timing? God is, right? That's what we get in verse 15 is you have the hour. God's the one that's going to be in charge of the timing. All right? Any questions? All right, the devastation, verse 15, third part of man. I don't know how they do it. We're not told how they do it. We don't know if it's done at one time. We don't know if it's spread out over a week or two or three or a month. I don't know. We don't know how long it takes to do it. We don't know what type of instrument they use to do what they do. We just know that they do it in verse 15. Now, the judgment of the armies beginning in verse 16, the number of them is 200 million. Verse 16, literal 200 million. 200 million people will gather in the valley of Armageddon to fight who? They gather in the valley of Armageddon, and who do they see coming? See that white horse coming, right? Yep. And they all aim all their weapons at that, and what does he do? You're done. 200 million slain.
I'm kind of curious. Why would they do foot soldiers when they still have their missiles?
Yeah,
that doesn't make
just,
sense.
it's how they're doing it. Yeah.
It's just how they're doing it.
Yeah. I mean, you just.
I mean, at that point,
Do you remember the economic judgments? No, do you remember the economic judgments in the seal? In the seal judgments? Missiles cost a bunch of money. I mean, they say we spent $100 billion working on Iran. It takes a lot of money, right?
So we're talking about China and
what, the Eastern countries. Yeah, all them. Yep.
Korea, North Korea, probably.
Yep. So 200 million literal, their description. Keep in mind the Bible is always going to be given to us in the language of the author's times. God doesn't come along periodically and say, hey, we need to update this thing. No, in the Bible, there's bridges that we've got to cross. There's geographic bridges. There's linguistic bridges. There's all kinds of things we've got to cross. So the book is written in the times of the writer, the author that's writing the book. And so that's the way God does it. And so with that said, when we come to verse 17, think with me for just a minute. And thus I saw, are we talking about ancient battle? Or are we talking about modern battle? Verse 17. And thus I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire, and jacinth and brimstone, and the heads of the horses were as like, see the like? The heads of lions, and out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. Does that seem to describe ancient warfare or modern warfare? That looks like modern warfare to me. Right. Okay. So yeah, because they're like it's all symbolic imagery, right? Notice it's all heat related. All right. Use your imagination. Do with that what you want. Okay. Verse 18 and 19, the devastation. By these three was the third part of men killed by the fire and the smoke and the brimstone which issued out of their mouths. Verse 19, for their power is in their mouth and in their tails, for their tails were like unto serpents, and had heads with them, they do hurt. The impact, verse 20, and the rest of the men which were not killed by these plagues, yet repented not of the works of their hands, that they should not worship devils and idols of gold and silver and brass and stone. This whole Babylonian system will get judged over in chapter 17. And of wood, which neither can see, nor hear, nor walk. Verse 21, neither repented they out of their murders, nor of their sorceries, nor of their fornication, nor of their thefts. Man refuses to change his mind, even when God devastates him. Just refuses. I saw a bumper sticker one time. It says that if you still think there's no God, you better be right. How do you think man will handle all this? Doesn't man always try to explain things away? Oh, we're having a drought, so we got to change some stuff. We're going to have to start driving cars.
What did you say about the bumper sticker?
Oh, the bumper sticker said that if you still believe there's no God, you better be right. Hang on to it there for a minute. It's coming. It's coming. I'm telling you, it's coming. Man inevitably will harden his heart. Just like in the days of Israel coming out of Egypt, God says to Moses, let my people go. Nope, plague. Pharaoh comes back. Moses, they get together, says, let's try it again. Second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth plague. Hardens his heart, hardens his heart, hardens his heart, hardens his heart. Man has not changed at all. Man has not changed at all. Judgment and hardening over and over again. It's the same thing you've got in Revelation. You got the same kind of mindset. Now, pause button gets hit. Chapter 10, verse 1 down to 11:13. Keep in mind, the scenario, the whole thing, is revolving around Israel and the land. Okay? There's so much confusion with Israel today. Let me show you something. Deuteronomy 30. I think this might help you in case you get asked. Deuteronomy 30. So when we're in Revelation, chapter 9 and 10, it assumes something about Israel. What does it assume? Doesn't it assume that Israel is going to need to be regathered into their land for these things to happen? So the assumption is that. Will that happen? Okay, Deuteronomy chapter 30. Take a look at verse 1. And it shall come to pass when all these things are come upon thee, the blessing and the curse which I've set before thee, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, whither the Lord thy God has driven thee. So Israel's been driven out. And shall return unto the Lord thy God, and shalt obey his voice according to all that I command thee this day, thou and thy children with all thine heart and with all thy soul. And it shall come to pass when many evils and troubles are befallen them, that this song shall testify against them as a witness, for it shall not be forgotten out of the mouths of their seed. For I know their imagination which they go about, even now, before I have brought them into the land which I swear. So I'm sorry, verse 3. I grabbed my Bible and it turned 2 pages. Verse 3, that then the Lord thy God will turn thy captivity and have compassion upon you, and will return and gather you from all the nations whither the Lord thy God has scattered thee. See that? Deuteronomy 30, verse 3. Okay. If any of thine be driven out of the outmost parts of heaven, from thence will the Lord thy God gather you, and from thence will he fetch you. And the Lord thy God will bring you into the land which thy fathers possessed, and thou shalt possess it, and he will do thee good and multiply thee above your fathers. You've got the same thing in Ezekiel 20, which I don't have time to go to there, but he says, I'm going to regather you, and then you're going to have to go through the rod of discipline, which is where we are in Revelation 9 and 10 right now, okay? So Israel, the assumption is that Israel has got to be regathered as a sovereign nation. There's no way that the Antichrist can make an agreement with a group of people that aren't a sovereign nation. So they're going to have to be a sovereign nation. And so could it be what's going on since 1948 be that? Could be. Is it? I don't know. It might be another 100,000 years before the Lord comes. I really don't know. I know he could come at any minute. And boy, it sure does seem like it is a regathering. And it sure does seem there's a lot of things that are pointing to that. Okay? But it's hard to say. All right? Could be, though. All right? And then you've got the other nations that are viewed. You've got the north and the south and the east and the west and so forth. Daniel 2 and 7 talks about the Western powers and all that. And I don't have time to get into that right now. So what I'm going to do next week, I think it'll help us, is we'll spend a little time in Revelation next week, but I think a timeline of all of this might help to kind of back up a little bit and kind of see where we are and see where all this is headed, okay? And I think we need to understand how all of these things are going to set up. The Western powers, for example, the European countries and so forth. If America fits in that picture, it would have to be in the West. It'd have to fit into that. Then there's the Eastern. We just talked about the Eastern nations, and then there's the ones in the South, which is the African nations and so forth. All right? And all of those will come into play in the tribulation period. Okay? Any questions? All right. Well, let's pray. Are there any special prayer needs?